Good afternoon from Plymouth. Good afternoon from P-Town Radio for those listening to us and those watching us on live. We are kicking off with our conversation. Language matters. This is our second week. My name is Jabo Butera. But just while we're starting this, I'm gonna check if all our social media are up and running. I'm just gonna ask my colleagues to check if any of our social media are live now. And if anyone else is watching us and can hear us, give us a thumbs up if you can hear our sound all well. So checking on the microphone and checking on everything. If all is good, please do let us know.
Thanks, Jabo. I can see the New Dice Facebook is running.
Fantastic.
Live.
Put the volume up and hear this is all live on your phone. We'll see if it comes up and then we can hear ourselves. If all the sounds are going through, all good. Just checking if all good. And the background is all good. Please do let us know if anyone else is watching. And please give us a thumbs up if all good. I'm just checking as well. I hear. If anyone else is watching. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're all good.
Good. I can see you're live as well, Jabo.
Brilliant. So.
Excellent.
Sound on, everything is on. We are up and running. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Plymouth. Good afternoon, England. Good afternoon, the world. This is a digital platform, so you're probably hearing us from everywhere you are around the world. As I was saying, my name is Jabo Butera, and I'm the Managing Director of Diversity Business Incubator. Also on this platform, I'm coming just as an individual, as myself. On the program as usual, and this is going to be something you're going to be hearing regularly. This is going to be continued conversation for the next 10 weeks. We're giving ourselves a 10-week program. Come on, people are so enthusiastic. We're going to count it and we're going to make it. So this is week 2. We have 8 to go. I'm not on my own in the studio. I'm with my colleague. Drums roll is first on coming in. Stu, bring on.
Yeah, so I'm Stu, and I'm here on behalf of Queer Out Loud this week. Queer Out Loud started as kind of performance nights and connecting community, and it's now grown into so much more. So yeah, similarly to what Jabo is saying, these views are very much my own. So this is what Stu thinks, rather than any particular organizations. So yeah. Thanks for having us here.
Fantastic.
Hopefully we're live on our Facebook too.
Yes, you're live on our Facebook as well.
Yeah, and I'm Keith. I'm here representing New Dice, which is a very interesting company, which basically helps people with autism and various other neurodivergent things to start freelance businesses and all sorts of stuff. Ironically, it's how I met you two as well. Just walking down the street, spotted Union Street, walked in, went to the Jabulani Coffee,
yes.
Got coffee,
yeah,
and then noticed the New Dice symbol, and then 6 months later, I'm now here as a volunteer working for New Dice. So
you get dragged in easily. Wow,
yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, Keith. And just so as Stu touched on it, I'll give you the disclaimer of P-Town Radio, but I'll also say thank you to P-Town Radio, because this is the community platform, the voice where you can express your views. This is the place. If you never heard about P-Town, check it up. Go on P-Town Radio social media. You'll find more about it. And if you have an idea, come and talk to us. We can see how we can accommodate. It's all to do with the community. So let's start with our disclaimer. So the full disclaimer says this one: the views and ideas expressed in the following program are strictly those of the hosts or guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by P-Town Radio as a radio station. So those are disclaimer out. Our second disclaimer is we are giving our views and our ideas here as people with lived experience, not with that hard saying we are regulated by a certain body of regulation to become those professionals with that body qualification behind it. We are professionals, but we are professional with our lived experience, and we're sharing I call it wisdom. I think it's worth to be called wisdom because everyone has a wisdom. except some like me, I've got already gray hair. I've got something to prove. I have a wisdom. So thank you so much for those listening to us. Now that our disclaimer is out, we're going to be here together for the next half an hour together having this conversation. We're not going to be boring you a longer time, but you can always catch up with what we talked about on our different platforms. So I'll start with you, Stu. What's the social handles of Queer Out Loud? Do you have any particular platform you're on more active?
Yeah, so our best platforms are probably Instagram and Facebook.
Yes.
And that should be at Queer Out Loud, all one word.
Fantastic. Keith, what's the social handles?
We have Instagram, we've got LinkedIn, we've also got our own website, which is very handy. You can join in and become a member. And I don't know what is that?
It should be for New Dice. Should be at NEU_DICE for all of those.
Thanks, Stu.
Fantastic. Well, again, as well with DBI, it's the same way on social. Everyone is active on social media. And if you are not active on social media and you want to be helped into that, please do reach out to us at DBI. We'll be able to help. So all our social media as well is the same, DBI UK_UK, or just Google Diversity Business Incubator. You'll find all about us. And if you cannot find any of all those, the word you can remember, P-Town, Plymouth Town Radio, and you'll find all those information. Now, without any further ado, let's crack on with this conversation. The title says it all. Language matters. You hear about diversity, and everyone is like, what's the right word to use? For myself, I come on this element of that side of the race difference. And you find individuals, I call you brown, black, BME, AAB me. It's important. Language matters. So this is the platform. We're saying, let's talk about it. What is it you think we could crack on with, Stuart?
So yeah, thanks, Jabbo. Language matters. Like Jabbo said, the title's so important. It sounds deceptively simple. Looking at our kind of subheading on week 2, finding the right language for diversity. Actually, just my brain is starting to kind of unpick that a little bit. Using the word right in there, we've almost started with a kind of assumption that there's a right way and a wrong way of doing something. And actually thinking back to what we discussed last week on episode 1, is that actually it's pretty much impossible in sort of all aspects of our life to reduce things down to right and wrong, any kind of binary logics and thinking that way. So kind of live on air note for ourselves, do we need to rework that title, that kind of subheading? If people have ideas, let us know. We're going to try and include everybody in that discussion. One thing I wanted to get in early on this show is in terms of how can people ask questions and kind of interact with what we're doing. We've got an open kind of digital post-it board where anyone can write post-its anonymously, and as Mimi said last week, ask us anything so that we can answer with empathy, because Google can't. So I think that's one of the main principles of what we want to use these 10 episodes for, is to be able to ask us anything and get answers with empathy. Anyone listening who wants to find that board, you can find it at bit.ly/ask, which is ASK-752. So bit.ly/ASK-752. And that's going to be an open, shared space for collaboration through the whole of the 10 weeks that we're running this program. So feel free to add stuff now. We're not going to be too reactive and say we're going to answer these live on air right now, but we'll visit that space every week, so we can have a look at what's on there, how that shared knowledge is growing and evolving. If people are wondering what to ask on there, then I think there's the three principles that Jabbo came up with to start this program, which was working out what words empower and uplift, how we navigate conversations around race, disability, neurodiversity, and queerness with respect and dignity, and discovering the power of inclusive language and its impact on fostering understanding and acceptance. So there are three headings. How can we fit questions in and around those?
Yeah, just as we're talking about that, and technology is really good. So the link you are giving, can you write on your Facebook page?
Yep.
Because if you write that as a comment, it'll come on up and everyone will be able to see that and they can find it straight away. So is this a free question we'll be able to continue conversing around. Before I bring you in, Keith, and I think you've just touched on it. When you say the language, people jump on saying the right or the wrong. It's that dynamic. Am I right? Am I wrong?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very important. I think people are very quick to make a judgment about something and then not think about how that actually affects the person. And I think sometimes just a little bit of thought before you actually just say something can actually make a massive difference to someone's day and to their well-being, full stop. I mean, with myself, like, people see me, they don't necessarily think I'm autistic. They just go, oh, that's a small person. Then sometimes I can be rude, but not necessarily in an aggressive way. But it can be taken the wrong way. And then people make judgments on you based on just something that you've said without thinking about it. I think that's quite important for people to understand, I think, sometimes. So
language is important.
Yeah.
But that fear of saying, am I wrong? Am I right?
Yeah. I mean,
that's
what
comes first.
A lot.
Yeah.
People say you don't need to apologize. But for me, I'm saying sorry because I need to understand that I've not offended you. Because I'm so used to offending people because I'm very direct or I'm very abrupt.
Yeah.
That sometimes people can go, oh, hang on, I didn't like that. So for me, it's a way of saying, validating myself. Am I okay? Have I done the right thing? Have I not offended you? Or have I offended you? And why? I don't know how you feel about that, Stu.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me in. I think it's certainly when we first met and you came to New Dice Plymouth, our kind of central meeting point is our living lab, which is on the fourth Tuesday of the month. And we use Union Corner just around the corner here from the plot on Union Street. And I think just exactly what you described, you were doing that first time that we met. And actually, hopefully, what I really hope that sort of New Dice supported you with there is actually when you were making those apologies, we almost pushed back a little bit and were like,
yeah,
hey, like in this space, that is absolutely not a requirement. So it's, I think, as a space, we try and have the confidence not to kind of challenge people and make them do the right or wrong thing, but actually just accept the whole of that person that's there. And I wonder now, because that was what, maybe 3 or so months ago.
Yeah.
Time goes pretty quickly. Like, has that changed how you anticipate kind of like turning up to the Living Lab space at Union Corner or turning up to our shared 752
space? It is right, because I'm actually excited to know now. I know I can come and talk to you. I know I can say anything, and I know you're not going to be offended, or you would just see me for who I am and not necessarily go, oh, he's going to say this or say this. And we don't judge each other based on those same kind of principles. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And well, like, thank you. And also, I just had a realization that, so in those 3 months' time, we've gone from a lot of, would you call it anxiety?
Yeah, I'd say there was quite a lot
of anxiety to me saying, hey, Keith, this morning, do you mind coming on live radio?
Yeah, and then here I am.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then thinking about the start of your story, you sort of discovered here through finding food at Jabalani
Yeah,
to then
literally,
get
yeah.
linked in, which is quite
To the
exciting.
point actually now that Liliana basically knows my order now because I'm
Oh,
autistic,
really?
and you go in and go, what do you want?
Same one every time.
Yeah, literally every time, same order.
No, that's really
And
good.
I think there's something about the physical spaces, Union Corner for the Living Lab.
It's an amazing space actually. I mean, one of the things I came here and I just came here randomly, and then kept coming back and I just it's a space where like because I sit and I volunteer on a Thursday, I can sit in the office and they can guarantee someone will come by. They'll just start random conversations, and that's something you can't get in a lot of places. I think that's quite important.
Sorry for interrupting. I just want to pull back on the conversation because we are having people listening to us, and they're going to be people going to go back and listen to it. And I think what we're trying is to share our lived experience that we're saying. We're not educating or teaching people. We are sharing our own. And I can hear the conversation, correct me if I'm right, when you're talking about languages matters and the feeling most of individual may have, like you were just mentioning, Keith, you're saying you use the terminology sorry because you know yourself how your brain works and to validate.
Yeah, it's a very validating way of saying, am I saying something correctly? And I think we live in a world now where people can be offended so easily, which is good in some ways because it's pushing back against that thing of saying, actually, do you know what? No, I want you to call me this. I want you to express me in this way.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think it's good that we do have that. I'm trying to how to put it. A way of being able to have a platform where we can say whatever we want and not necessarily feel that it's wrong or incorrect. Does that make sense?
I think just to bring a kind of specific neurodiversity example in that comes up quite a lot, which is then going to link to another theme that I think would be good to explore, which is the power dynamics that are coming from that expectation to apologize.
Wow.
So that the example I'm going to have is neurodivergent is the bit of my identity that I sort of claim and have that works that way. Some people actually then would use the word neurodiverse to be describing their own individual identity. And in terms of that right, wrong binary, it isn't there. But for me, neurodivergent is that identity. Neurodiverse is actually something that would happen at a population level. So every single human being is part of a neurodiverse population, but not necessarily everybody is neurodivergent. But again, right or wrong, language use is very, very fluid. It evolves over time. But a pattern that I notice is often when people are using neurodiverse to describe sort of an individual, they aren't necessarily sensitive or aware of any of their more kind of unconscious bits, sort of bias, heuristics coming from perhaps some of the powers and privileges that they hold as parts of their identity. Whereas actually, when you claim neurodivergent as an identity, it makes quite a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's what you were saying is almost, I can see this other person's uncomfortable. It's my responsibility to apologize and repair that comfort. Whereas what's quite empowering about being in some of the shared spaces that we have down here is that those apologies can happen, but the expectations of them and those power dynamics are a bit more sort of open to be explored, like exactly like we're doing now.
You're touching on a really subject. I think we should take time to develop it on near future as one of the big topic to develop the power dynamic. And I always say, whenever you utilize a language with the intention of making the other person smaller, that's when it comes discriminating. Because you're using the power dynamic of making yourself feeling higher, bigger, better?
On that note, just to make a point, there was something I was talking to Stu about this earlier. There was a person that surrounded me the other day, and I was having a discussion about being autistic, and they went, "Well, everyone's on the spectrum a little bit," and that is something that, as an autistic person, I find very offensive. It's like, yeah, do you know what? Yes, you might have certain things where you might be a little bit of OCD or things, but to someone that's autistic, sometimes things can be so much overpowering, and you have no idea how that person is feeling at the time. And all right, yes, we may mask quite a lot, and I think that's one of the things I think sometimes quite hard. People mask, and then because of that masking, they then later on will find things so much more difficult, or have to go into a corner, or they have to recess and go away, which is quite a nice space actually for the shed. That sometimes you're just feeling too much like, no, I'm going to go and close the door, and you can have that space, and no one's going to judge you, which I think is really important. But I think it's so easy for people just to say things and then not think about the consequences afterwards.
So we having people commenting and giving their conversation about what's going on. So I think I've put some up there, like Vera Love. She's been listening to us. She just finished her show as well. Shout out to her. She said yes, language is very important. But also I have Benson Campbell, who's also listening, who's mentioning. Trying to find my chat now. I think he says we need to look at we need to observe. Who's mentioning from the other side? So there is the comment coming in. So if you have a comment to put in there, please share with us, and we'll be able to pick it up. Shall we say this topic of power dynamic will be the topic of next week? So we give people a chance to comment, because they can reach out to us after. There is many different way they can always communicate with us. They have our different platforms, and even some platform, I think the Facebook, wherever. Even if you are finishing the show, you still can comment on it. We'll be able to pick up on that, because I was just conscious of the time, and we don't want to load individuals with a lot of information at once. It can be overwhelming. So what I'm hearing, or what we can take as a takeaway, let's start to see if we can land this today. This is our conversation in the next 4 minutes. How can we land this? When we're talking about, the first of all was, yes, language is important.
I mean, I think pick up something that Stu said at the beginning about the actual title being the right thing to say.
Yes.
I don't think there is necessarily a right thing to say. I just think it's more important that whatever you are saying is important to yourself, but people respect the way that you are. So if someone wishes to be called they, them, then you respect that regardless of how you feel. I think it will make them feel a lot better. It makes the world, a better place, because do you know what? It takes 2 seconds for you to say they, them, and it doesn't take, away from that individual's identity, but it does make the world a better place. And reviews, the world's not necessarily going to be angrier, and people are going to be much calmer. And, I think just, one little thing can make a massive difference to someone and how they perceive the world.
You touched the word respect, and what it makes you feel. So, wow, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack there. And you started very well, Keith. You said there is no the right or wrong. Because again, that's what it did lend us to go into the power dynamic. Because when you go in the right and wrong, you start to play with the power dynamic. Because when you're thinking that's the right, it's the positive, is the higher position, and wrong is the negative. And I've seen that in the language. People using already in thinking, say, am I right, am I wrong? You starting comparing, am I better, am I not? And it becomes to how you make the person feeling.
I think that's a society thing, though, more than anything else. I think society has forced us to put ourselves into certain brackets, which I don't think should necessarily be there. And that's something that probably does need to change in the future.
Yeah. Stu, I'm going to come to you. On landing this one, when we talked about the power dynamic, we'll come on it next week. And you mentioned about the feeling, and you said how you and Keith, you've been 3 months, and at the beginning the dynamic was that saying, is it all right, is okay, there was a lot of anxiety behind it, but with the time there is more of that trust and that knowing I can speak loud, I can speak to Stuart what I feel. What do you say about?
Yeah, I think the word that really stood out from what you said there was trust.
Mm.
And often, especially I find autistic people like ourselves are perhaps trying to anticipate others' discomfort and anxieties and sort of repair that often means that you can't be open and sensitive to the trust you have of other people. But then also the thing you mentioned about it's been 3 months now that we've sort of grown in that trust together. So those initial intuitions and feelings, often they're very, very reactive. You might feel very anxious or safe or not safe or fearful, but the trust only develops over time. And I think that's the bit that I'm really hoping is going to work for this show being 10 episodes. So episode 2 now, eight more to go, is that hopefully we can build the trust of people that are listening over time. Because I don't think 30 minutes, 40 minutes and an hour is enough time to build that trust for our listeners, but also for ourselves.
Yeah. Time is important. And as well, time run faster. So I'm just conscious of the time. Our time is up. We've had an interesting, very constructive conversation. And we talked about the language matters. And there's no right or wrong. The trust comes in, the respect comes in. We talked about time. All these aspects we'll be exploring. So this show, it's a combination of, or a coming together, or a collaboration, or a relationship. You can use many words between Diversity Business Incubator, Queer Out Loud, and New Dice. We're going to be here every Tuesday. Every week, we'll give you some of this knowledge we've acquired and we lived. These are lived experience we are sharing with everyone. Also, you have an opportunity, as Stu mentioned, and we did put it in the chat, how you can contribute to this conversation. I'm just going to bring you back on the screen so you can find a way of contributing as well. There you go. You can get that one in, and then you'll be able to contribute. But also, there's many ways. There's a chat as we go in the day and through P-Town. And we have many people who have been commented, including Tendai, who runs the P-Town Radio, founder of it. He just said it's not just what you say, but how you feel and think about it from within before you express it.
It's very true.
These are the conversation we'll be having, and this is the conversation we'll continue having, and these are the conversation taking place. So we're going to be acknowledging, as I say, the free organization who are coming, the relationship, but also the support from P-Town Radio, which is this vocal platform for the community. Have you got an idea? Have you got what you want to talk about? Do you have something you want to share? P-Town is there for you. Join and you can be running your own show as well here. But also we want to acknowledge this is happening in Plymouth. This is a city where changes and this type of conversation, human-centered, and there's all this passion and everything. I think you mentioned it and Mimi mentioned last time. Some of this question you can ask Google or ChatGPT and I'll give an answer. But there's not going to be the human side of it. And here in Plymouth, there is this movement going on. We want to talk about what is real in the human. Is it okay to be okay and not to be okay? There's no right, there's no wrong. I think that's what we need to acknowledge as well in Plymouth and many to come. So our next episode is going to be next week, Tuesday, but we're going to be sharing these once we've got all the 10 episodes. We'll put them out there, but they're also on our YouTube channels. You can always catch up on our YouTube channels. So as I say, time has run out with us. We only have 1 minute before our 1:45 arrive. So just quickly, one word or one sentence you would like to leave as a wisdom to people. I'll start with you, Keith, and I'll come to Stu. Keith, what would you like to leave as?
I'd just say, I think if it just think a little bit before you say something to somebody. That little second of thinking before you express something is really important and can make a massive difference to your day and to theirs.
Fantastic. Think before you say something. Wisdom. Stu.
I'm going to sneak in two things. Thank
Yes.
you, P-Town, again for hosting us. Like, what a great platform. The technology here is incredible.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you very much. The thought I'll leave on is building on Keith's thing in that moment that you're thinking, what power do you have in that situation? And that's what we'll explore in episode 3. Power.
I like that. I like that. Can I give mine as well?
Yeah.
On that element of power, and I think Keith, you touched on it when you say someone, I am autistic, and the one says, oh, everyone is on that spectrum. And I've heard when during the period with the Black Lives Matter, and everyone's like, oh, everyone,
All lives matter.
all lives matter.
Yeah.
It's not all about you all the time. And that's just saying, what's your position, the power we're talking about? And as human being, we tend to, someone says something, instead of you listening to them, you want to bring yourself in. We'll have time to talk about it next week. Until then, friends and those who are listening to us, and thank you to you all for joining us. Have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon. Take care.